For some analysis on the situation, we can bring in Gilbert Achar, a professor of development studies and international relations at SOAS, London School of Oriental and African Studies. Thank you so much for joining us today. Perhaps we can just start with your reaction to this vote of the UN Security Council.
Well, it is shameful. It's just a further proof of the fact that the United States is complicit in this murder of genocidal proportion. It's a massacre of genocidal proportion. Many lawyers, international law specialists, insist on the fact that we entered in the realm of what is really a genocide going on there, with 1% of the population killed until now, including a very high proportion of children. And this is absolutely appalling. You mentioned 80% of the population displaced. More than half the buildings in the Gaza Strip have been destroyed. I mean, this is something that we haven't seen for very, very long time in history. I mean, such intensity of killing and destruction. And the fact that the United States votes against even the idea of a ceasefire, which Antonio Guterres, who is anything but any extremist or anything like that, I mean, he's really doing his job, observing the UN Charter and calling for a ceasefire for obvious humanitarian reasons. The fact that the United States alone vote for that is just shameful.
The U.S., though, has hardened its tone against Israel. Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, has said that there's a gap between, what Israel is saying, what it's doing on the ground. One gets the sense that U.S. officials are perhaps conflicted. Why do you think they continue to vote against a ceasefire?
Well, they are practicing doublespeak, because they are seeing the extent of the massacre, which is absolutely huge. And therefore, they want to dissociate themselves in some way from the massacre. But who is fooled by such an attitude when you know that not only they are protecting they are confirming their unconditional support for what Israel is doing by refusing to call for a ceasefire, and more importantly, they have organized, an air bridge, bringing weapons to Israel. You have some 200 planes until now have since the beginning of all this have landed in Israel with U.S. weapons, and that includes 2,000-pound bombs, which are absolutely, the use of such bombs in urban concentration with such high population density is just criminal. It is actually genocidal. And the United States is fully responsible of that.
What do you think that it would take then for the United States to finally say, enough is enough?
Well, I think that the Biden administration put themselves in a kind of corner with that, because probably what the U.S. President Joe Biden had in mind when he took his, more pro-Israel than thou kind of attitude was that he would prevent the Republican right-winger who are very pro-Israel, as you know, he would prevent them from outbidding him on that. And he even thought that he could, combine this support to Israel with the support to Ukraine. And he failed on both counts. And now he is in a position where if he were to retreat from the position of rejecting the ceasefire until Hamas is eradicated, which means until tens of thousands of people killed over what you already have, which is almost 25,000 people killed until now. Now, if he were to try to retreat from that, he would come under heavy fire from the Republican right, and that's the position in which he found himself.
The United States and Israel, argue that a ceasefire would benefit Hamas. What do you make of that argument, and how would you qualify the strength of Hamas at this point?
Well, the whole issue is in the fact that the goal that Israel set to itself, and that the United States and some other Western governments supported unconditionally. France is the only one until now that has, among those key Western governments that have shifted on this issue, the rejection of the ceasefire. But the goal that they supported is the eradication of Hamas. So what does it mean to eradicate an organization that has been the government in a territory of 2.4 million people, very, very densely populated because it's a very small strip of territory? What does it mean to eradicate an organization which has been ruling that territory, which has thousands upon thousands and thousands of members in every field, from health to education to everything? That are not. I mean, Hamas is not its armed wing, which is called Din Qassam, and those who organized the October 7 operation are some 4 to 5 people, because such operations had to be kept under a very heavy secret. So, I mean, to call for the eradication of the whole organization means committing what we are witnessing, which is a massacre of genocidal proportion.
The Palestinian Authority is working with U.S. officials on a plan to run Gaza after this conflict ends. But Benjamin Netanyahu has said, he won't accept the Palestinian Authority as part of a solution. Just perhaps briefly, it's a hard question to answer briefly, but how do you see the future of Gaza?
Well, I mean, you can summarize it in 2 points. Netanyahu says what you just said. He doesn't want to see the Palestinian Authority back in Gaza. And the Palestinian Authority says we can't rule Gaza or even Palestine, I mean, the Palestinian territories, and have anything that would resemble a state if Hamas is not part of it, because Hamas is an important dimension of the Palestinian public opinion, and it can't be eradicated. So when you see how, opposite these two positions are, you understand that this is going absolutely nowhere.